I'll need to start looking up his streams. I don't think I watch any of his streams. I backed his book after he appeared on Drawn and Quartered, and I think they did a version of that where Titan versus or with Bigfoot Bill. I actually participated in the fan edition of that and drew a Bigfoot Bill Titan piece. That was not long after I first started drawing. But I tell you what, that book, Titan, looks like it's going to have just some of the most gorgeous art you've ever seen. Really, really does. I'm sure I would. I know enough about him. I would have backed his book probably if he was not drama free. I mean, I do back a few books. They're history drama, but even they're cutting it back a little bit. People I like because of their religious or political beliefs, and I want to believe in them. I think they're doing a little bit better holding back on the drama. Oh, wait a minute. He's carrying a comic book. In this panel, he's carrying it in his left hand. So I need to draw. He's actually carrying a bag full of comic books, I should say. Need to look for a little continuity here. It's not the best bag in the world, but at least I remembered to draw it. Yeah, if I can remember after the stream, I will look up and subscribe to him if I don't, because I'd like to pay more attention to him since I'm supporting his comic book, and I'll probably review it for the blog. I don't know if you're aware or not, but I have a blog that does a lot of things, especially comic books, at generalgrudge.com. It's actually 100 times more successful than anything else I do, oddly enough. You wouldn't think so, but surprisingly influential in our small community, if I can say so myself. And I will certainly review Titan when it comes out. Let's see, what am I going to do with his other arm? Can't really show it much. I read a review the other day, the Allegiance Comics, I think. Maybe the Red Rooster 2 review. I've got an Allegiance Comics review, and I've got two Red Rooster Part 1 and 2 reviews on there. All those done surprisingly well. Red Rooster's been a big disappointment for me for a lot of reasons. I thought the first book was beautiful, even though it was ridiculously late. And then he did the most example, he did the biggest example of phoning it in for Red Rooster 2 that I've ever seen in any comic book in my life. It couldn't have been worse if it was a web comic. It's very disappointing. Very disappointing in Mitch. He's got a whole lot of talent, and he's just letting it go to waste. I would kill to have his natural talent. Wow, look at that horrible finger. I should be ashamed of myself. It's like a goofy finger. Did you back any Red Rooster books? I'm about blind. I'm having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. Yeah, unfortunately, I found the Red Rooster campaign right at the end of it. Especially early on, I was very cautious about what I backed, knowing human nature and knowing how comic book artists are, even professional ones, But I backed that one for emotional reasons, and I mean, a long time ago, and it'll be worth seeing. As disappointing as it is, it'll just be an event worth seeing if it ever comes out at this point. He raised a whole lot of money off a whole lot of goodwill, and then made a lot of people angry. Do you watch? Mine's going blank. I watch his streams nearly every night. The Comic Book Hut. Do you watch his drawing streams or some of his rant crap? I mean, stuff. I don't mean that bad. I just don't like the rant stuff. But he is an incredible artist. But anyway, the other night on a stream, he actually did like a video on my Red Rooster review. That was a very pleasant surprise. I was just sitting there at work, looking at YouTube, killing time. Popped open a Comic Book Hut video, and he's doing something on my story. That was neat. I mean, I say I don't like his drama, but I do like that he is a consumer advocate. I should point out, and I think in this messed up crowdfunding scene, we need all the consumer advocates we can get. Yeah, I agree with you completely. I watch his drawing streams. I'm not. When he first started being shared a lot and I didn't know how to take him at all. I thought maybe he was a little bit crazy or something, but I think he's just playing a character, trying to get views. And I think he genuinely means well. I mean, he's got a agenda where he's trying to help consumers, and I appreciate that. I think you can do it a little less sensationally, but that's just my opinion. Whatever he's doing what makes him happy. But he is an extremely talented artist. I mean, like, he blows me away how good he is already. And I want to encourage him to do more of that because I think that's very helpful to the community. What was the deal with the Lone Star review? I saw the video but didn't watch the video. Well, I did a review on Lone Star 2, and I was very disappointed with it because I loved the first Lone Star. It was one of my favorite crowdfunded comic books for reasons that I explained in the review. And Lone Star 2 took a lot of that and just sort of threw it away. Not to mention it was also extremely late. It was, except for Red Rooster, it was maybe the latest book I backed, and I was just a little disappointed in the whole situation. Even though I like Mike Miller a lot for a lot of personal reasons, he's got a lot of stuff to respect. I think he needed to get his crowdfunding game together, and that's what it was about. Now, the Hut took that review. He's a much bigger critic of Mike than I am. He doesn't seem to like Mike, and he was a little harsh on Mike, a lot harsher on Mike than my review was. Do I plan on backing number 3? I probably will. I backed Maga7, even though I had reservations about that. But I genuinely like Mike, and I think he's taking steps in the right direction. Whatever you think about Maga7, I don't know why I called it Maga3 because probably I'm thinking of Lone Star 3. He at least has a finished book now. The book's finished; it's pretty much ready to go. So he's going to, he's making the right steps for it. I think he needs to do the whole Tim Lim route and have the book completely finished and either printed or fixing to just go to the printers already. Maybe even in the process. I think that would be good for Mike. I think he lost, whether he realizes it or not, he lost a lot of backers over Lone Star 2 being late. Not just, his little argument with old school Comicsgate, but he lost a lot of people just because I think they thought that even though he left Comicsgate, he was still doing a lot of the practices that Comicsgate is infamous for. And that was the best line in my review, and the Hut sort of messed it up. I don't think he understood it. I had a review that you can take the Christian out of Comicsgate, but you can't take the Comicsgate the Christian. And when the Hut read that on the review on his video, he said, "I don't think it's got anything to do with Christianity," but it was more of a pun to say he's still doing a lot of the practices that Comicsgate was infamous for. But I think he is definitely taking a step in the right direction. I backed Maga7. I got the physical and the digital version of that. I'm going to do a blog post on that tomorrow or so. Mike cut out again. But I would probably back a Lonestar 3. I think Mike's doing a lot of things better than he used to be. Mike used to be one of the worst ones at the drama, if for no other reason, as I've said in other reviews, he just wasn't good at it. And I think it hurt him. And I was critical of that, not to be mean to Mike, but because I want to see Mike succeed. Now, if my opinion's important or not, I can't tell you that. I don't know if Mike cares enough to listen to my opinion, and I couldn't blame him if he didn't. But I genuinely hope that he does really well and provides for his family well, because he's a great father and I think he's an amazing artist. And I think he's a good human being. So I will probably back Lonestar 3, even though I don't like the. Oh, is that an arm? No, that's not an arm. Even though I don't like the direction 2 took the story. Are you a Lonestar fan? Are you a big Mike Miller fan? Fly Fox, this would be a whole lot easier to do if you wanted to let me send you a link to the stream on Twitter, and you can talk in real time as you draw. You don't have to, but it's an option. You may have a baby asleep or something, though, which I fully understand. I may regret drawing this so dark. Is my mic working? Yes. Okay, I should have done this earlier where I can look at the stream on the surface. Hopefully that hat mistake won't happen again if I can remember to look at it in increments. Yeah, that's fine, Fly Fox. I'm just glad you're here, even if you ain't got time to chat. Thank you for showing up. You've been very helpful to me today. You feel a whole lot less stupid talking to somebody in the chat than you do just talking to nobody in the room, like it was earlier this morning. We've got another silent viewer in here today. I don't know who that is, but you're welcome. You don't have to participate, but thank you for showing up. I'm sorry that the content's not very good, but that's sort of the point of the stream, learning how to draw. Should this whole alleyway be colored in dark? That's another thing. I mean, like, I know I keep saying this because there's everything I need to work on, but that's another thing I need to work on is understanding shadows and lighting. That's so important to doing a 3D. I mean, a drawing, making it look 3D. Hey, anytime you want to, Fly Fox, if I'm streaming, all you got to do is just say it, and you're welcome. Anytime. Let's go back to my alleyway reference here. Wish I hadn't accidentally opened up a whole new tab for the stream. That's messed everything up. Made it because I'm using the touch controls on this stupid Surface. Do I want to make this door that complicated? I don't know. It's a learning stream. I might as well. The good thing is, if I ruin it, it's just a web comic. Nobody's going to care. No one will probably hardly read it anyway. I like Mike. The jury's out on me whether I'll love his work though. I have a hard time connecting with it like I have Doug or Gary's work. Yeah, that's a very reasonable stance. Mike's sort of a talented artist that, in my opinion, has a hard time creating original characters. That's a very important thing to do if you're going to crowdfund. You need to do everything. You can't just be a good artist like, say, at Marvel or DC and just use, their store of characters and their writers and everything, and them do all the business decisions for you. You've got to be able to do it all. And people like Doug have proved throughout his entire career, pretty much every character he creates is a solid property. And if you've probably not read my blog enough or watched my old review videos, but that's one of the things I pointed out when I did my Bigfoot Bill YouTube review, is that there's so many in crowdfunded comic books that don't know how to create characters. And Doug, that's his, he brings properties with him, not just Earthworm Jim, that's his most famous one. But, Bigfoot Bill is a solid property, and it was told well. I don't know if you read Bill, obviously did if you're Doug Tennant, but in the first Bigfoot Bill, it's so well done. He sort of tells his origin and opens it up in about 3 or 4 pages, creates a whole world, does a really good job, gets on the comic book and does the action. And he's a good writer and a good artist. He's the whole package, and he can create characters, and he's shown a really talent for the business too. He's a leader in the business. Earthworm Jim, that crowdfund, completely professional done. Give the backers more than they paid for. Excuse me. Just very talented. I think I may have messed this up here. Excuse me. I don't know. We'll fix that in inking. I might color all this in black here. Excuse me. And I'm not saying that Mike needs a writer. You see a lot of that coming from people in the community that I think just want him to draw their comic book. They're trying to use him, and if you're a talented artist in the crowdfunding, you can pretty much write your own paycheck, because all these writers, and I'm sort of a writer, at least I think of myself as one. You're expendable compared to the artist. I mean, that's just the reality of the medium. And I won't mention any names, but there's some people that always rant on Mike Miller, and the only reason they do it and make fun of him is because he doesn't draw their comic books for them. And I think that's disingenuous. I think Mike can create his own properties. I mean, Lonestar, the first Lonestar was a genuinely good comic book. It was everything just about I wanted in my mind from crowdfunded comic books. That's why I was so disappointed in Lonestar too. It just wasn't that it wasn't what I liked, but it was just the exact opposite of what he had done in the first book from my point of view. And I was very disappointed with it. The first book, I'm a big Captain America fan, and one of the reasons I quit buying monthly comic books years ago was all this hero deconstruction stuff, and they take other people's characters and they make them villains, and they make, they blur the lines of right and wrong. And just personally, that's not something I was in. And so when you had these crowdfunded comic books come up, it was a movement. And it should have been a movement back to doing things like, making actual heroes again, making stuff that's not identity politics and stuff, making something that's patriotic for a change. The big two are incapable of doing that. They can't make a Captain America comic book anymore. And that's what Lonestar 1 was. And in Lonestar 1, he set this guy up who was being a hero in more than just, saving people's lives. He was putting other people's happiness and security above his own happiness, At least that's how I read that book. And then from my point of view, all of that was thrown away in the second book. And I was very disappointed. But mostly what I was disappointed in was just how ridiculously it was one of the latest books I backed. And if I'm going to rally or pitch a fit on all these comic gate guys that release crap like like I did Cyberfrog, it was ridiculously late, and I called people out on that, in my blog and my review and stuff like that. And if I'm going to do that against people that I don't care much for, if I'm going to have any kind of honor or respect, even somebody that I genuinely have affection for, like Mike Miller, I need to call it out. And to Mike's credit, and this is one reason why I backed Maga7 and we'll keep backing him, is he's the only person that actually responded to that review, and he was respectful about it. He wasn't a jerk or nothing. He just said criticism understood or something, and thank you for the review. And I thought, that meant a lot to me because he wasn't a jerk about it. A lot of people would just say, you suck, or you can't draw, or you don't know what you're talking about. But he at least was kind enough to say, hey, I'm listening to the criticism. I'm going to do better. And I think you can see a lot of stuff he has done better since. So that's one thing in the Huts video about my review I thought he was too harsh on. I don't think he gives Mike credit for things he's doing better. And I think he's doing a lot better. The one thing Mike has changed that I don't like for the better is, and I'm sure that's just got to do with the elections going on and stuff, is there's less Edwin Boyette. I don't know what it is about Edwin Boyette, but I really enjoy watching him on the streams. I think he's a good compliment to Mike. I hope it's just Edwin, focusing on politics in Hawaii or wherever he lives, and he don't have time to participate in streams. I hope it's just not something he's not going to do anymore, because he added a whole lot to Mike's streams, in my opinion. That's not a dig at Mike at all. I just mean there's something about Boyette that I enjoy. I like a lot. I liked it when he talked about comics on Twitter. I liked it when he pushed certain books. There's a lot of books I back just because he recommended them, try to help people out. Like, I can't even remember the name of the book. Do I have it laying around here somewhere? I backed Titan Mouse. What's his name? Mouse of Might or something. I didn't know who Gary Shipman was, but I backed that because Edwin Boyette. Mike said Edwin is too busy with the political stuff. Yeah, that's what I figured. Hopefully that's all that is, and he'll be back because he's a very likable individual when he's not worrying about the drama too much. And I know he just does that because Mike's his friend. I was afraid maybe they stopped streaming together because of that stupid criticism a bunch of those idiot Comicsgate people said, because they was acting like they were gay or Edwin had no life or whatever. And a lot of these people in that movement can't understand that some people just are friends with each other and they support their friends, So I'm glad to hear that's not why that was, because I want to see more of it. It makes sense, He's got a life outside of recommending comic books to me, but hopefully he'll be back. Which I just realized, if people come on here and ask questions like this, it'll be very helpful. I can get out of having to do the blog all the time to talk about this stuff. Because I like doing the blog, but now that I'm trying to learn how to draw and Photoshop and create websites and stuff, it's hard to have the time to do it. All right, now we have to draw another finger, another hand. God help us. We do have like a community that just goes to extremes all the time. They think just because you say something maybe a little less than just full praise for something like Lonestar 2 that you're just a troll and you don't like people. And that's certainly not true with me. My review about Lonestar 2 wasn't because I didn't like Mike. It was because, right or wrong, because it's just my opinion. I want to see Mike succeed. I genuinely do. I want to see him prosper. Good people should prosper. And I hope Mike doesn't listen to people about not doing his religious streams as much. I know he separated the channels. I think that was a slight mistake because I would have probably never cared enough about him to back him much if it wasn't for the religious stuff. I wouldn't have paid attention to who he was because I didn't know who he was originally. Not because he wasn't worth knowing, just because I hadn't read comic books in 18 years or something. So his religious videos, his religious stance and tweets, that's what made me find him enduring and made me originally start buying his books. And then after I started doing that, I saw, this guy's a very talented artist, especially when you watch him draw live. It's very it's very inspiring. That's one of the reasons I'm wanting to learn how to draw. I watched Mike draw. I watched Doug draw. Now I'm watching the Hut draw. It's very inspiring. And there's been people, that's been watching me start drawing again, after 20 years. And it's not that they think I'm good or anything, but, just seeing that the passion I've got for it and the work I'm putting into it, they've actually started drawing again. And they've told me about that. So if that's true, that's cool. I like that. I like to see more helpful people in this community try to help each other, like Dee Dee does, people like me and Hut trying to learn how to stream. There's a lot of good people like Doug does. He helps a lot of people. I genuinely respect what he's doing just out of the passion of it. I'd like to try to start doing stuff like that, have a little passion. Anyway, this stream's going really well. I don't know how long it's been going. I don't know if me canceling that last stream out started it from scratch. I hope not, though. Such a stupid mistake. I have to work on this panel. I've got the same problem in panel 6 that I had in panel 4. I want to show all 3 characters, but I don't want to do it awkwardly. I'll probably move this guy over here. Makes sense because in all the old panels, he's on the left side anyway. So we'll go ahead and draw Johnny here. Very generic version of Johnny. We'll worry about Tool Guy later. I don't even think I've given him a name. Originally, he was a annoying old CG character, or not character, personality that I've always found low IQ and annoying. And I drew his likeness when I first drew this page there, and I thought, you know what, that's too divisive, not decisive. I don't want to do that, I went as far as calling them war campaign, but I didn't keep his likeness up. I just went over and gave him a generic mullet and goatee. I'll let the world speculate who that idiot is without making a big deal out of it. Anyway, we've been streaming a long time. If somebody watches this later and wonders what's going on, my name's General Grudge, also known as Dwayne Ferguson, and I am trying to learn how to draw again after I quit drawing 20 years ago. I've been drawing, 3 months or so. I can't really remember now, at least since March. And I'm having a good time, and I'm doing this stream not because I know how to draw, but for the exact opposite reason. I'm learning how to draw. I call them learning how to draw streams. If you watch this later and you want to drop by and give advice and give constructive criticism, not be a jerk about it, but say, hey, you'll find this helpful. I would love to hear it because that's one of the things I'm trying to do better. I want to try to listen to people that are trying to give me good advice.